All right,
Oh,
can't
we're
do that.
live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the PD Chat Show. Now, if you are new to us, thank you very much. We've decided we're going to branch out and change our name. Now, don't panic, everyone. We're not going to go too far away from the major league. It's now going to be called the Palace Drum Chat Show. So the PD Chat Show. So welcome everyone to the PD Chat Show. Our resident panel here. We have Pete Cater and Rob Bryant.
Hello.
Hi guys. How are we this week? Are we okay?
Marvellous.
About the same as last week. A little bit
Thanks,
fatter and my hair's a bit longer.
Goes a bit longer. But basically, we'll hopefully go all the way through this, and all of our hairs will be down here. And our special guest, who doesn't have a problem with hair, bless him, is Gabs, Gabor Dornyei. Thank
Hello.
you.
Hey!
Yay.
Hello, everyone.
How are we doing, Gabs? Are we okay?
Yes, good, very good, thank you. Still alive,
Still alive? Yes. I think we
trying
all
to
are
keep
still
it
alive.
together. All good.
So, as regulars will know, what we generally try to do is this is a bit of a chill out session with some great drummers, some great conversations. They have amazing knowledge to share, and it's all about discussion basically on topics. There's no technical unless it's you want to answer any you want us to answer any technical questions for you, but it's more music related topics and it's like open conversations that we generally like to do here. So if you want to put any comments in, then please do, and we'll try and answer as many as we can get through. If you're watching, please just say hi, because obviously we want to know who's watching and give us a wave. So um, there is there's quite a few things happening in the world of drums really over the last, I suppose, really 30 or 40 years, which really has put this question really to me, and the question is. The modern enhancements, so I'm talking about adding more drums to the regular kind of setup, so the more drum cymbals, more percussions, more electronics and effects. um, in what way, or if there is a way, the enhancements to the actual drum kit, why is it necessary, or is it necessary for day-to-day music? Now, Gabs, you're renowned for obviously the first time we met each other. Really, it's you boys, you brought a monster kit in, and you weren't joking. So you're quite, you basically are known for having the big setups, and it's not like you have a big setup, you play this bit, then you go to this bit. It's incorporated with all the stuff you do. So what enhancements? Because obviously you didn't get to that point, woke up and go, I've got all this, haven't I? So in what way would the enhancements basically for your day-to-day music, has it helped, or is it sometimes a hindrance, or yeah, what is it?
First of all, thanks ever so much for having me. Welcome, everybody. Thanks, gentlemen. Um, Thanks for having me. Thanks for joining, for all the watchers and listeners. And I think it's a very, very good question and very much related to my kind of playing. And before, I think it's very important I always discuss it with all my students that sometimes before you can go forward, don't be afraid to take 2 steps back and think a little bit about your influences, why you react to certain things this way, what were your preferences, what is it that you really liked, and what made a huge impact and huge influence on you and your style and your playing. First of all, I remember when I was around 16 and 17, that was probably 298 years ago, when I first heard Billy Cobham playing the drums. And what resonated with me is that incredible freedom of expression, that something was on the right hand, something was on the left hand. And it wasn't about showing off that, look at me, I can do this with the right hand, I can do it with the left hand. It was just playing. And that sort of playing represented the freedom to me that I always wanted to achieve as an artist. and freedom, because, you know, life is a very difficult game. And when I play the drums, I want to be happy. That's my happy place. I want to express my thoughts. I don't want to be any better than anybody. I just want to be the best I can be. And I want to be happy. I want to make sure that I play however I want to play. And whenever I feel restricted because of not having the gear or not having the drums there, even recently, I know I'm going crazy, probably, I started playing the double bass drum setup. I played it for a long time, for 20 years. I had a big bass drum and then a small bass drum. It's a sort of like a jazzy, like an 18-inch, highly tuned, if I want to play straight ahead or jazz or some Latin stuff, I can change my sound to an 18-inch jazz bass drum from the 22. So my complete sound would be very different with a different bass drum size and the sound. But recently what I found, I started enjoying to play two 22s and the 18, because that's the only way I don't feel sort of cut in half and having everything to my right-hand side.
Yeah.
The whole concept of putting a lot of drums on my left-hand side or equal drums on both sides were that I just wanted to use my limbs equally, because I feel like if you have a very good right hand but a super weak left hand, you probably gonna be sort of the left hand or the weakest limb, whichever that may be, gonna hold you back from flying and just expressing yourself or playing. I'm not talking about any setups, anybody's, what I'm saying is my concept was just trying to play equally on each side and both limbs. And the longer I've been playing, it's 32 years now. I think I started when I was 10. So this year, it's easy to calculate after 32 years of playing that this year I'm 17.
Only 32 years.
Yeah, only 32 years. And I'm still learning. I'm learning every day. And I found out that I'm just trying to be.
Oh, Gab's sound is gone. He's having an issue, so.
Oh, yeah.
Gabs, you've gone a little bit. Your sound's gone, mate. Yeah, your sound's gone. I'm going to mute you. I'm going to try and mute you. He's still talking. Well, while he's talking, it's beautiful. Unfortunately, I just described while he's sorting the sound out. He's just before lockdown, his Mac went down. His Apple Mac went down, and unfortunately, he's on a very old computer. So he's done amazingly well. But he's doing it. So I'll do a few shout outs because we've got quite a few people here. So Aaron Gull, Rob Camblingham, guys, Martin Ollie. So it's great to see these people keep coming back to hear us talk and drill. Mike, hello.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you now. Just doing some shout outs. Matthew Devonlish, hi. I think he's got a question for you later on, Gabs. Nikki Brass, hello. Tim Tanler. Kenneth again, hello. Corey, hello again. So we've got some Simi D's watching. Fantastic. It's to do on Pete's thing. 32 years. You're a bit of a lightweight, Gabs. On 32.
I know.
No, it's not a lightweight. It's just a youngster.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Paul.
Beginner.
So sorry, we lost you. As I say, we'll have to apologise for Gab's computer. It's not his normal one. He said spent.
I mean, what a great timing! Timing is important
for this.
drummers.
No, carry on. You're basically getting on to.
No, it's just what a great timing. That's all I said. Timing is very important for drummers. My MacBook died on me the day before we went into a 3 months lockdown.
Yeah.
How about timing? And ever since I don't have a MacBook, I'm on my missus's Microsoft computer, which is actually brand new, but sometimes just tends to cut out for no reason. It's a brand new computer. Anyway, so Billy Cobham was the first influence, massive influence on me. He's still probably, if I had to name one favorite, it would be Billy Cobham. And I know that he's right-handed, and still he plays left-hand lead because the entire drum kit opens up in front of him, which offers a lot of possibilities. Some people go for that, some people don't like it. I totally get it, it's fine. And then I discovered through my teachers and music videos that I discovered Terry Bozzio, who was totally unbelievable. And probably for me, it's coming from not being very strong on melodic instrument, but I always had very good ears, so I can sing melodies, and I love musical players, that I always wanted to make music with my drummings rather than grooves only. Of course, I understand with timekeepers and blah, 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 everything. But I always, when I played my solo stuff and when I practiced, I wanted to play melodies on the drums as well as rhythm. And back to your questions, who needs a big drum kit and who doesn't need a drum kit? Of course, like a big drum kit, like a melodic drum kit or percussion elements or foot cowbell or mini timbales or rototoms or whatever you have. It all depends on the gig you do at the moment and what is it that you want to express, what is it, how you want to play. You know, if you're playing Oasis or whatever, you very likely not going to need like 15 toms. But if you want to do solo drum performances or melodic drumming clinics or performances, solo ideas or whatever, you might want to extend your kit. And then, so Billy Cobham was the first player who sort of opened up my mind in front of sort of open-handed playing and adding more toms and blah, blah. And then I discovered Terry Bozzio, who was literally playing melodies on the drums. And after that, for some reason, probably, of course, there's a certain interest in the person who's falling for a certain art form. Then I discovered Horacio Allegro Hernandez through a Michel Camilo trio album, which is a Latin jazz album featuring Anthony Jackson on bass, who's ever since my favorite bass player. I mean, he's always been my favorite electronic bass player. Anthony Jackson is an absolute mofo. And they were just playing it in trio, you know, and Michel Camilo, Horacio Allegro. And I couldn't imagine that one person can play the percussion and the drum set at the same time. And that concept completely stole my heart. And ever since I'm trying to do that, I'm learning that, and I want to sound like sort of entertaining myself and also the listeners, in the sense that a drummer and the percussionist playing together. They're playing music together, they're playing grooves together, they sound interesting, they sound musical, there's a lot to it. And basically that was the concept, that was the route that I started going down. When was that? 1998 or something, 98. I know that in 2000 I had my first solo album came out. In 1999 we recorded it. So a long time ago, 20 years ago, and I was already sort of down that route. So through Horacio and all these influences, I started adding the percussion elements to my drum kit. So I wasn't sort of growing the drum kit for no reason, because I enjoyed carrying it or whatever. There was a musical reason behind every additional instrument that I added. The foot cowbell, the jam blocks, the mini timbales, the tambourine, another cowbell, blah, blah, whatever I added, there was a musical reason. So these are my influences. And what I found, the more time I spent learning the drums, the more I realized how important your early influences are. And everybody, you know, I see, say, I meet people who are older than me, a previous generation or two generations before me, and they're all following the people and try to play, not necessarily try to copy them. They just want to play like their early influences, like whether it's Buddy Rich or it's Jane Krupa, whoever you grew up listening to. It makes a major contribution to your influences and a major contribution to your playing and the player you're going to become later on further down the line.
Yeah, great. Just a few show that I forgot to mention. If you're watching on the replay, can you just hashtag replay, which means that you can still comment in it. Thank you very much. We've got some fantastic people. So, Rodrigo says you got hugs from Iceland. I suppose you'll need hugs if you're in Iceland. Beautiful country that is. Darren Newden, hello Darren. Okay, there's quite a few people watching. Fantastic. So we'll just come to the others, but just touch on that, Gabs. If you, for instance, could you go out and actually do one of your clinics on a 5-piece drum kit?
Oh, I've done it several times. Yeah, sometimes you're on tour. Say, for example, you're finding yourself in the middle of China and you're promised a 10-piece Pearl kit, which you endorse, and you end up playing a 5-piece DW because this is what they deliver, and there's no way that you can say that, oh, I cannot perform on this, I'm going home now. It's just not the way this business works. You know, it's just you just make it work. I mean, you know, if you come from a country like I did and come from a background not necessarily super wealthy, you just make the best sound you can on the spot, and they expect you. People come to see you.
Oh, he's gone again. Yeah, maybe he's got a calf limit, so how much he can actually speak. I don't know. Just before that, Pete, we'll come to you because you're, you know, I've seen you with a large drum kit. I mean, you've put the extra 16 by 16 actually onto your kit, and that's a large one for you, isn't it? So, what is have you actually dabbled in, like, you know, branching out into different different elements of like this like percussion world, or sort of like enhancing the kits like with different things like that, and making it bigger?
Yeah, I've played a much wider selection of drum set configurations over the years than people would perhaps realize or indeed appreciate. And all of it was predicated upon what the music I was involved with at the time required, and also here's another thing, which way the drum industry was facing at any particular time. I mean, I've got here, you probably can't see it in the shot, but this was my day-to-day working drum set for many years, and one bass drum, and I've got here a 12 by 8 and a 14 by 14, but here in the room as well, I've got all kinds of different sized toms that I would bring in and take out according to what felt right for the music that I was playing, and that was, you know, you learn a lot by setting yourself new challenges, by changing the configuration, by bringing in different elements, by putting different elements to one side. I used double pedal for years and years. People would not think of me as being a double pedal player, but I used it all the time, primarily as a solo voice, not really in a rhythm section context, because you know, there's not a whole lot of call for double pedal in the rhythm section when you're playing straight ahead jazz. As a solo voice, I used it for years, and then I just felt like going right back to the basics, and so I did. And I'm constantly finding new ways of addressing that very fundamental basic drum set, and I'm a very long way off wearing them out. But basically, what I take out of the house is all to do with what I need in the workplace when I get there. And if something were to come along that maybe called for something a bit more adventurous as far as the configuration was concerned, then I will probably go for that. But for the time being, I'm one up, one down, and, you know, a couple of cymbals and a hi hat, and away from the gig as quickly as I can be.
We've got a few comments from Kenneth Everett. Hi guys, met Gabor this year with Dan, Rob, and Alex and others. We loved the Latin grooves with the extras. He's his pupils now. We love your playing, Gabor, and kindly tried your kit, a monster. What a sound you remember in February before the nightmare of lockdown. Glad you're on tonight. Cheers. Dave Foster, hello, Maskin. Rob, I'm going to come to you with a question here. Do you think people like Mike Mancini or Portnoy, for that matter, really need the amount of kit they use on stage? It's a good question.
Yeah, probably for that project, yes, I believe they do. I think the other guys have said it already, and I kind of agree with what they've said. You use the equipment you need for the job, and I spend a lot of time like those guys. I was going to say on the job, but that sounds wrong. But doing the studio and live,
Steady.
Work. Is it not the watershed? Not yet.
No.
And whenever
So 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. whenever I order a kit, like the DW stuff, I always order from like 8-inch toms down to 18-inch. So I can, like these guys have said, you can take them to where you want to go for whatever gig, whatever session you need. But personally, when I'm playing, yeah, I've gone from the little 4-piece jazz kit in the rehearsal room and thought, right, I need to make this thing more, and I'm always working on that. But just lately, I've been spreading the kit out a bit more and using more things on my left-hand side. It might not be on a gig, I won't be touring with it anytime soon, and I might not even do some clinics with it, but it's just an expression for me to start developing a hidden voice, and I think that's really important. So I'm always pushing myself that way, but whether we say it on the stage is another matter. But for me, I think it's really important to do that. And I think for all students of percussion and drums to sort of spread their wings a little bit. It doesn't mean you're going to do it every day. Or maybe that one thing you might only do on one gig through your whole lifetime. But for you, it's pushing your technique, it's pushing your musicality and your expression forward. And I think that's got to be a really good thing.
I think you nailed it there, Rob, when you said whether or not you actually see it on the stage.
Yeah.
And, you know, what you do in your personal time as far as the lifelong learning, the constant development of the art of playing doesn't necessarily need to inform what you do on the job. I remember, because I'm quite by some distance the oldest of our little gathering.
No, you're not, are you, Pete?
Yeah. And I remember in the 70s when the big, 6-inch right through to 18-inch concert tom drum sets were all the rage, and you would turn up on the kind of gigs that were so abundant at that time, like hotels and clubs and places like that, and there'd always be another band on, maybe in the same room that you were playing, playing alternate sets, or in another room somewhere in the venue. And you'd see guys with like 8 concert toms and on top of a regular drum set, and all they would play was the snare drum, the bass drum, and the hi-hat, and none of it got used. And it's about having the right tools to serve the music as best you can, and turning up with insufficient equipment is just as bad as turning up with too much. You just gotta, you just gotta know what. And this is horse sense. This is just day to day. Being a freelance professional player is just knowing what to take with you and knowing what to leave at home.
Yeah. I've got Mark Jeffs is watching. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
He's most probably sitting at
Hey,
home.
Mark.
I don't know if everyone's
the man with whom I share a birthday, although not the same year.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, February the 8th.
Hello.
Mark's obviously Rusty Drums. He's been busy building. He's been a builder. He's got a new lock up, and it's going to look amazing. Can't wait to see that, Mark. So use watch your hands. Too many calluses.
Is there something I can add? Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes, yeah. We can
Okay, I'm back. My sound is back. Yeah. So it's a very interesting addition to everything that we discussed. That you need to have the right equipment for the right job, and whatever style you want to play, whatever you're required to play, whatever the band requires you to play, however you want to sound, blah, blah, blah. On top of that, it was a very interesting conversation between Mark Juliana and myself. He was presenting a drum clinic at ICMP, where I'm on faculty. It's a London university, and basically he was discussing his choice of sound, equipment, and voices. And he said, basically he was completely on the other end. Of course, we totally respected each other's opinion on this and each other's setups. And he said basically he's doing the 4-piece drum kit setup with 2 cymbals, no more than that, and a hi-hat on purpose, because that's the way he wanted to challenge his rhythmic understanding and execution over the sound choices, so to speak. So he said, I want to be fresh on a very basic drum kit and improvise all the time and be new and create something on a very basic setup, which is probably the most difficult. So that way he kept himself thinking and creating new ways of expression, new sound choices, new rhythmic phrases and everything, because his gear was so limited in a sense that he said, I wanted to limit myself to this very little drum kit, so I must be expressive, I must be creative in order to offer something new to the music and to the listeners. So he didn't want to go into the 8-inch drum and 12-inch and 18-inch and a foot cable, blah, 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 on purpose. So that's another approach which I found very interesting. And of course, his playing was fantastic, off the scale, and yeah, that's the another route to discover if you want to go that way.
This is one of the great things about the drums, though, isn't it? Think about this for a moment, if you will. Our instrument, quite unlike any other instrument, before you play anything, gives you so much freedom to express yourself just by virtue of what you choose to bring with you to the musical situation. I mean, years and years ago, everybody was playing 4-piece or 5-piece drum sets, either 2 up and 1 down or 1 up, 1 down. That's pretty much what everybody used. But now we have so much choice. I mean, I wrote a blog years ago, and I called it "All Trombones Look the Same to Me." And a lot of trombone players got offended by that because they just read the title and they didn't actually read what I was saying. But this is the point. Everything from the gear that you use to the finish to how you set it up, the positioning gives you so much freedom. The drum set is you, whereas a tenor saxophone or a trombone or a violin or a piano is what it is. I mean, you can get a trumpet and have it sprayed bright red or something, but it's still a trumpet. It's still got 3 valves and a water key and what have you, and a mouthpiece and whatever else it is it's got. But the drum set, before you even start, and maybe electric guitar runs a second, in terms of the, effects, the pedals that guys use, or talent boosters, as some people rather unkindly call them. But the drum set gives you so much freedom to express yourself before you've even played anything. You can show up with a snare drum and a cowbell, or you can show up with a drum set like Terry Bozzio. But we have so much freedom in what our definition, what our interpretation of a set of drums is before you've even played a damn thing, and I love that.
It's amazing.
You be down to the color. You have your drums refinished in bubblegum pink, which I did once contemplate many years ago with these Yamahas. I thought it'd be a little avert, perhaps. But think about that. The drum set is whatever you want it to be. Whether it's, as Gabs was rightly saying about Mark Giuliano, who's very minimalist in his choice of equipment, to somebody like any of the master big drum set players. The drum set will be whatever you want it to be, and you should bear that in mind at all times.
Yeah, great. Just going to read a few things there. Hi, Charlie Ashby, great drummer from Manchester area. How you doing? There's a couple of little things here first. No, we've gone to that one. So, Michael McCourt. Michael, hi, Mickey. Hi, Gabor. I saw you at the first PD clinic. I was super inspired by you. I'm still using the sticks that I won on my practice pad. I like your T-shirt. Can I have it? No, he doesn't say that. No. I like your T-shirt, by the way. How do I get one? Purchase online, or basically just beg, borrow, and steal. That's what I trying to do. Another one, which I think we all know this, Martin Hollis. Like, remember the tricks and kits, Pete, with the bank of toms and an egg-shaped bass drum? We all do. We all do. You try and get ahead for one of those. Amazing. I don't indulge this one. But by the way, when I see Rob plays, I want to burn my drums. He's still, don't burn your drums. Don't, please. We don't. There's no cruelty. That was that was from Anthony Sargent. That's cruelty to the instrument. It's a musical instrument. Don't burn them, please.
Don't burn them.
Don't burn them. Love your drums. Gabs, Mike Tuppen. Do you still have the enormous 80 sonar kit you brought to the National Drum Fair many moons ago? Yes, he does. He's nodding because his sound's gone again.
Oh no.
Oh no. Rodrigo Lopez, obviously from just said from Iceland. Gabs was my
Oh,
mentor at Dime. I hope that was the actual college.
hey,
Not.
Rodrigo.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Detroit Institute of Music Education. I remember clearly.
Oh, so it's not a chocolate bar. Okay, fine.
No, no, DIME is short for Detroit Institute of Music Education. It's an American online. It's a university in America, in Detroit, obviously. And I was head of drums at the online department. Indeed, I authored the drum course for Detroit and the online department. And Rodrigo was one of my students from Iceland, and he relocated originally from Brazil, and he relocated to Iceland. What a geezer! Great player. Hi, Rodrigo. Hope you're keeping well.
Yeah, he also says I was recording at Box at Real World Studios a week before, and 2 days after Rob Bryan started to record there. So
Oh, Rodrigo's messaged me. Hi, Rodrigo. Sorry, I'm slightly quiet. You've messaged me a few times, haven't you, about that? I do recall, and I did answer. I did. Honest.
that was amazing if you got an answer from Rob. So fantastic. Anthony Sargent, I love big drum kits, but obviously being a pub drummer these days, it's not feasible both in terms of space and obviously your back as well. It is the occasion that actually, as Pete said, you can take anything that you want. Take a, I know some people, obviously modern day, I suppose we can call them the functions. Sometimes say SB&DNS because obviously space. So you actually have the electronics coming through, and you just standing up playing that. It's horses for courses. Sometimes.
Absolutely, horses for courses, and particularly now that the congestion charge in London has been increased again. That is
Oh
going
yeah. 7
if I
days a
drive
week
into
until
central
10 o'clock
London,
at night.
if
Really?
I drive into central London, I'm going to take a 4-5 piece drum kit maximum, and that's it. So you see me. I mean, I'm very lucky playing with some of the top cats in London. Sometimes we do Ronnie's Scott and everything. We play on Art Blakey material. It's called the Blakey's Boys. That's our band. I'm playing one up, one down, kick and snare, hi-hats, 2 cymbals, the end of story. Because that's what the gig requires. So you just choose. And if you have a pop gig, you probably have 2 up, 1 down, and that's it. 22 kick, snare, hi-hat, and end of story. Interesting thing is, on top, if I may have one question, I don't know, Matt, if you allow me to have questions as well, or sort of.
I don't know about that. I don't know about. It all depends what it is. Yeah.
No. It's not even a question. Just starting a discussion based on what Pete just said and commented about, different drum kits, different size, different approaches, different musical expressions. That do we agree that it doesn't really matter what drum kit you play and what band you play, not even the style. I've been thinking about it a lot, and what I found the 2 most important things, and sometimes I discuss it on my clinics with the audience. What do you guys think makes a good drummer? What's the 2 most important things? And I always come down to 2 major topics, obviously, regardless of style, whether you're in a thrash metal band or jazz band, whatever, gear doesn't matter. The 2 most important things that's gotta be there, whatever you play, is time and sound.
Yeah.
Because if you play with a good sound in good time for that particular, whether you're in a top 40 band or you're in a metal band, you're in a swing band, whatever, you got to play good time in good sound. And that's including everything. If you have good technique, that's going to support your timing. If you have good technique, that's going to support your sound, because you're not going to play into the drum, blah, blah, blah. All that, we know that. So with all the elements, do we agree, or do you guys, is there anything to add to this? Like, are these the 2 most important things in your opinion, or what would you add to that?
Well, under the heading of sound, I would include dynamics, and to me, the thing about authenticity, whatever style of music you're playing, is mixing yourself. Thinking of your 4 limbs as being like 4 faders on a mixing desk, and having the bass drum in the right place in your drum mix, and the snare drum in the right place, and the hi-hat in the right place. And if you're playing jazz, you want the ride cymbal to be at the front of the mix, and the bass drum and the snare drum to be further back. If you're playing funk, you're going to turn that around. And to be able to do that, and sometimes in certain venues, I mean, we as working players, we've all turned up to do some kind of under the radar cocktail party at an art gallery where it's all like stone and glass and things,
Yeah.
and the drums sound terrible. And if you can just control your sound by balancing the relative internal dynamics of your hands and feet, you're going to come out doing a better job and sounding better. And to me, dynamics is everything.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
For example, dynamics in my big umbrella belong to sound, because if you have the right dynamics, you create the right sound for the gig.
Yeah.
So ultimately, dynamics, if
well, talk about dynamics, obviously he's gone right down in a dynamic contrast. Well, for me personal thing is like, yes, like you've it's the musicality. You take your musicality. It's got to be, which obviously for me obviously includes, you know, the sound that you make. It's like, it's not, you know, you often, for me, it's like you're on this. When I teach, it's all about the sound. So basically, it's not as a soundscape. So you're trying to create the best sound you possibly can out of what you've got. So if it's where you're hitting, or basically sort of how you're producing the sound and stuff like that, which then obviously, you know, then you can get dynamic ranges from it and all that stuff. But for me, it's all about sound. You know, when people ask me, it's like what I do, obviously, well, we had the conversation a few weeks ago, so I, you know, entertaining. But
Matt, you're saying that without moving your lips. That's incredible. How do you do that?
I've tried for years to actually do that. I've actually missed little Jim here. He's gone now, but it's.
It's like a ventriloquist act. It's amazing.
Yes.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
can you guys hear me?
It's back. But what? Yeah. So what I was saying was that when what's this one? Teachers. So it's the case of you know, it's I've lost my track now for the ventriloquist thing. Maybe I am a dummy. Maybe that's me actually doing the dummy. But what was you talking about? So the kind of the teaching the sound. Yeah, it's, you know, it's what we you know, how you curating that sound. It's like it's all about, you know, the dynamic contrast. You know, it's just like the musicalities, your touch, and everything else. It's like, as Gab's right, it doesn't matter what you actually sort of play. It is that. So as I say, when you go to the, you know, if you're making a bad sound out of what the instruments that you've got, is there something you can like change to actually make it a decent sound, or the best sound you can possibly make? It's all about like sound. It's not just like crack, oh, that sounds like a snare drum. No, there's certain things you can do to actually make that sound musical. It's, for me, it's like, I'm a musician. It's all about the music. I just so happen to play the drums, but they're still a musical, and it's like a wonderful thing to actually sort of create music with. So yeah, that's for me the two. But obviously that sound obviously then could be sort of branched off into many areas. Would you agree, Rob?
Yes, I would. And you know, on another level, I think feel and personality can come into it as well. You know, I mean, how many times have we sometimes walked into a venue, and whether they're a support band, or we're the support band, or they're the main band, or whatever, or you know, a jazz gig, and or even a wedding gig, and there's another trio playing outside, or you're that trio, and there's a big band in the main room, whatever. And oh, hello.
Oh, Pete's doing the ventriloquist. Maybe Pete's my my little Jim. I don't know.
Got some latency there. Is there some latency there?
A little bit. See, the modern technology is like, we're trying our hardest, but we can only work with what we got, and that's most probably sometimes.
No, I'm just sitting completely still and not saying anything.
Oh,
somebody
you came in like a 15 minutes late.
Yeah, there's suddenly, yeah, that's all right. All I was going to say was, sometimes you go into a place and you see someone and they may look really uncomfortable playing. I mean, this is taking it to a different thing, but and you look over and think, fellow drummers, okay, you know, let's see what happens. And they're playing the fattest groove and a lovely swing, or whatever they're doing, and that's all they can do. But it's absolutely fantastic. You know, and they've got their sound, their feel, everything's there, you know, but they might not technically be a great player. And when it comes to the feel, it might be a little bit, whoa, but when it comes back in, you know, and I think sometimes I look at that, and when I see drummers like that, it really reminds me that sort of personality and feel is really important to the music as well. But obviously we need all the rest that you just said, sound, dynamics, and that makes you better. But sometimes some of those drummers have a certain naive quality that sometimes it's hard to repossess, because sometimes on a session someone will say to me, Rob, it sounds too learned. You know, it sounds too nice. Can you make it sound like it's unlearned or more garage bandish? It doesn't happen very often, but on a certain sort of session, and you think, oh God, so just be a bit raggedy. It's like, oh, I don't like being raggedy. I spend so much time on the grid. You know, it's like, well, try to go back that way. So a certain naivety as well, I think, is sometimes quite important as well. You know, within all that sound, feel, musicality, and overplaying, underplaying, and
well, that comes to actually, it's like, obviously, it's like a great point. Aaron's actually said, Aaron Gold, like, just before that, hi Malcolm, Simmy's back, Rob Clark, hello, how you doing, buddy? It's like chops or grooves, chops versus grooves. It's like
it's not a competition. It's both.
have both. Yeah, go for both.
Yeah,
both.
hang out both.
Go for
people talk about this kind of almost quasi mystical quality of flow, and I prefer. I think we're going back over old ground from a previous show, but I prefer the word fluency. And fluency comes from two things. It comes from having ideas and having the technique to carry them out. Okay, the whole chops versus groove thing is a non-debate, and it's over with. You know, both.
Agree, totally agree.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we're all in agreement there, aren't we?
100%.
Yeah, because I think we talked about it last week with Daisy.
Quick shout out to Ian Stocks up there in the northeast, who's just messaged me on Facebook.
There we are.
Looking in.
Yeah, well, ask us a question.
Great
I'll
candidates
read it
in
out.
the whole
I'll read it
country
out.
here.
So, yeah, I think we talked about that last week with Daisy, didn't we? It's like if you've got all the tools, and then the creativity basically comes from, you know, you don't have to worry about, you know, all your chops and everything else. You know, it's just it's here basically. Is what you can do basically up here, isn't it? At the end of the day. So
And it doesn't matter what gear you've got, because you'll make anything sound fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got all the technique in the world and no idea what the drums are supposed to sound like in the context of music, you ain't going to sound good. If you've got no technique at all, then you're going to be very limited as to how far you're going to be able to go, what you're going to be able to do as a player. And Bob Moses got it
If you
right.
can only have one, now that you just said that, Pete, it made me think, if you can only have one, either groove or chops, obviously go for the groove, because that's how you're going to get hired.
Yeah,
if you have to choose, of course, it's great to have both. That's what we're all working for. And you can never have enough or too many chops. Your technique's never going to be good enough, because it could always be better. And your groove, when you hear guys like Omar Hakim or bloody Bernard Purdy or Jeff Porcaro, you always feel like, oh my God, they're grooving their asses off, I'm nowhere near. So then you feel like, oh my God, really got to work it. But if you have to choose, then go for the groove. That's what I would say. Of course, best thing is to have both.
Yeah. Talking on that, as I say, there is a comment. Basically, is a personal statement more than a comment, to be honest, by Anthony Sargent. It's like, how can I phrase this? I suppose it's to do with personality. He actually says in a couple of such things about, like, being a pub drummer and everything else, that he argues quite a lot, but being a decent person, but it's like, nobody wants to work with someone like that. But in this kind of day and age, it's because obviously sometimes literally just turn up, and then you don't see those guys. But obviously that's your session, that's your session work. But theoretically, you want to get asked back. You're trying to get into that little pathway. Maybe you weren't there before. So what is it? Do people book you sometimes? Obviously, playing has to be there first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
But personality, does personality?
Can I frame that in a slightly different way, if I may, for a moment?
Yeah.
We're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to play as well as we can. We're all trying to, there are no gigs at the moment, but we're all trying to stay and work. We're all trying to get to the next level. It doesn't matter where you're at, what kind of gigs you're doing. And once you get past a certain level of mastery on the drum set, once you get a certain level of ability, okay, once you get good enough to play a job and play it well and get asked back again, then beyond that, it becomes a matter of personal aesthetic sense, what it is about your playing that people like. Okay, so once you get past a certain level of ability, it becomes all to do with subjective appraisal. However, if it doesn't matter how well so you can ask 10 people about a particular drummer, and you get 10 different points of view, and they'll all be right, and none of them will be wrong. And you just get 10 different people's insight into what they think about a particular drummer. But if you get somebody, it doesn't matter how well you play, if it is entirely apparent to everybody that you're a complete dickhead, then everybody knows that, and there's no subjective appraisal at all required in the evaluation process there. So not only have you got to, do your best job as a musician, you've got to try to be a decent human being.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think that's me and trying to be everybody's best friend. We all know people like that too. But just be straight with people, be a decent person, turn up on time, have a good attitude, and play the music as well as you can. And people will pick up on that. If you've got a bad attitude, people ain't going to want to work with you. It doesn't matter how well you play.
Exactly.
You could be the a combination of Buddy, Vinny, Tony Williams, Steve Gadd, Mel Lewis, Tony Allen. And if you're a horrible person, nobody's going to want you on the gig.
True. Yeah. I've heard that a lot actually on tours
totally.
I've done. The drummers, and obviously no one says any names, but I've heard some stories. I've got, really? And they go, yeah, definitely, we wouldn't work with that bass player or drummer because they just bring a whole host of problems.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they've got the attitude, whatever those problems might be, and it's just like, wow. And it's just that's such a true thing, Pete. It's so true. And people sometimes say, oh, you're just saying that to make us feel better. It's like, no, not at all. That personality thing and being, a damn good person on that stage, musically and socially, is really important. Absolutely.
Totally. Leave your hang-ups at home. We don't want them on the gig.
Yeah, totally. And there's one more thing that I keep telling my students. I don't know if you guys agree. I'm almost certain you will. That this is a human business. What we have to understand, you always have to work with someone, not to mention work for someone, but you have to, even if you're not working for someone, because you're the band leader, God forbid, which is the worst of all, because you carry all this shit.
I disagree.
Now, of course, you always have to work with someone, even if you're the band leader or not. Doesn't matter if you work for a top producer, whoever you work for. You have to get on. It's very important. If you're the gigantic dick in the van, who wants to work with you? Who wants to sit next to you for 8 hours in the van?
All day long.
Do you know what I mean? And that's one thing. But even if you're a top name, even if you're Elton John or whoever you are, you have to get on with your management. You got to get on with your sponsor. You got to get on with your record label. So there's always going to be someone, a person, who decides whether you get that deal, whether you get that sponsorship, whether you get that tour, whether you can support that band, whether you're going to work for that singer, whatever. You know, who's going to be chosen. And that all partially, I always tell my students, 50%. First of all, you got to be as good as you can be. The London and England, of course, it's a very cosmopolitan place. Huge competition. Some of the best players in the world are here. Some of them in New York, some of them in LA. But pretty much that's the sort of the hot spot in the world. So the competition is always going to be huge. You need to be the best you can be. But there's just one thing. That's 50% of the gig. The other 50% is what kind of person you are and who knows you and who do you know. Because otherwise, you can be the best drummer in the world. You can have fastest single stroke roll than Buddy Rich in your own garage if nobody's opening the door.
Absolutely.
Gonna hire you? Nobody, because you didn't go out to a jam session. You didn't go to meet anybody. You can be the best drummer in the world, which doesn't exist, of course. But even if you were, nobody's gonna give you a gig just because nobody knows that you're the best drummer in the world. Okay, so it's just gonna be on the scene, showing your face, being reliable, being there on time, just like Pete you said, just like Rob you said, being nice, being sociable, being reliable, being prepared, all these things. It's a full-time job. It's no such thing that, okay, I can do this, check me out. Oh, wow. It's never gonna get me a gig in my life.
And can I just add a thing to that? It was interesting that I was in a green room once with a named drummer, and I was sort of shell-shocked to go too near him, so I sort of left him. But his roadie came in, and I've always tried to develop really good relationships when I'm lucky enough to have them on those sort of gigs. Usually it's me, so I just abuse myself. But he was ever so rude in this green room to his roadie, and instantly I was turned off like that. And I noticed backstage he was giving him a tough time. And at one point I left the tent when he did, and he was like, I'm on it. And I went out, and he was just stood outside, and I went, are you all right? He said, yeah. He said, look, this is me going really fast, can you tell? And I was like, wow, I've just suddenly learned like one of the main rules, to be nice to your people on your crew. You know, so this guy was shooting all that, oh, you've got to do this. So he went, I'm going. Outside, he was like, that'll get done eventually, talk to me like that again. And, you know, and I just thought, wow. I said, is he always like that? He said, yeah, most of the time. I know him, it's fine. So, I mean, I'm not that sort of person, but I made sure that I made friends with everyone from the bus driver, who I'm going to need at 2 a.m. when I stop to want to go to the toilet. You know, you've got to be friends with him. To the catering to anybody, same as going to a pub, get to know the landlord, be nice. You know, all that stuff is so, I think is so incredibly important.
It is important.
People forget it.
It is important. And I discovered this in my early days of touring, is that the first people after, it's like, you know, because obviously going for that first big tour, it's like there's other people you're watching, all kind of stuff. And I came to realise, for me personally, the two departments I must basically never offend, or basically they become my best friends ever, is your back line. They're setting up all the stuff for you. Anything goes wrong, you basically there. So we make sure after every tour, especially our personal backline and stuff like that, they got a massive present, like a bottle of whiskey or something like that. And we basically sort of had a chat. We was their best friends. So, you know, it wasn't.
This is what we're getting tonight, yeah?
It was literally just, sorry.
That's what we're getting tonight, after tonight, yeah?
Yeah. You're on Prosecco, though, aren't you? So
I was just checking out.
I'll put a bottle of Carver in the post. But yes. So because obviously that you're the front, so what people see. But they're the guys that are working so hard. So, and the other one's wardrobe. If you want your smalls washed on a very long tour, you have to basically switch up with the girls and go, I can't get down the laundrette. Would you mind? So, and then the bag goes, I'll sort that out for you. Because you build up relationships, you know, you have to be, you know, it's like, well, it's our dear old statesman Gary Alcock says, you know, you're on this planet you're dead longer than you're on this planet, basically. And people want to remember you as, what you want to be remembered by. And it, you know, as soon as you said that, it led back to actually someone at a college which I could not stand. He was a professor. I won't mention any names, but he taught me a very valuable lesson. That he said, you know, in the music business, because he was a very high musician, professional musician. He said it's like arrogance has to be here to basically for performing and everything else, but humanity has to be there.
Absolutely,
it's absolutely above it, and that was sort of a valuable lesson for me. Because at the end of the day, you know, you young whippersnappers, you're thinking you're the best thing since sliced bread when you're walking out that college door going, right, where are they? And it's like you get struck down. I go, actually, no, it's not. It's like there's it's like, you know, so there's a statement here. It's like professionalism is more than just what you know or how to play. It's how you apply yourself in all areas.
Yes.
I mean,
imagine,
I think that's a lot of things, isn't it? Well, people say, you know, oh, but, you know, they're not very good, but they're a professional musician. Well, hang on. First of all, they must be good. But secondly, how have they applied themselves and basically be able to work years after year after year after year?
Yeah. Imagine, I mean, like, luckily, when was that? 2009 to 2012. Yeah, for 3 years in a row, I had this pretty incredible gig. I was on a Thriller Live world tour, Thriller Live was a show, a Michael Jackson show from the West End. We were gonna be the warm-up show for the big Michael Jackson comeback at the O2, which never happened because Michael Jackson died during the rehearsal period. Someone just told me that, oh, it's a shame you had to gig Michael Jackson to have the tour for 3 years. You know, that's what they told. Anyway, so on that tour, we were traveling 4 trucks, with 4 trucks and about, I think, about 60 people together. That was like 35 or 38 crew, and plus the dancers, singers, and the band. It was a massive production. When it was sort of domestic tour, the crew was traveling on the nightliner, and we were either flying or going after them on the bus the next morning. So we stayed in hotels, and the next morning was an early, lobby call, and boom, shoot to the next venue. So it's an intense tour, and there's so much pressure and so much tension. You know, everybody's tired. Everybody's tired. You work for your life. You know, you wake up way too early in the morning. You gotta be there on time. You're running late. You didn't have your breakfast. You're arrogant. You're grumpy. You're tired. You haven't slept enough. It takes a couple of hours to really get yourself together. You probably get, if you're lucky, you catch a couple of hours of sleep on the bus while you get to the next venue. And then once you're there, you're still hungry. You probably didn't have your stop, or where you slept through it. And then you're there, and you suddenly, there's no dinner. You're doing your sound check first. So there's another 2 hours, and you're still on your nerves, and you're still like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Why am I have to be here? You know, and all the tension, you can feel the tension in the air. And if it's so easy to fall out with someone, or just say something that's going to offend someone, and that sort of affects your relationship for the future. And then you got to be on the same bus with the same people for another 3 years. You know what I mean? Luckily, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like an intense touring. It was a very good tour in the sense, sometimes we did like 4 or 5 weeks in the same venue. We did like 5 weeks in South Africa, 4 weeks in Johannesburg, 1 week in Cape Town. And then we did 8 weeks in Munich and 1 week in Frankfurt, whatever. So it wasn't always that intense. So I'm not whinging about it, but sometimes, you know, when you have intense touring schedule, other than a theater show, which is a little bit different than the other shows, then it's very easy to go off the rail. So you just need to learn. Basically, I think it's just respect everybody equally, you know, whether it's your MD or your band member or your crew member, or whether it's hairdresser, laundry, you know, whoever. It's just sort of humanly get on with everybody the best you can, and that's the best way you can survive. It's a hard work, you know. It's never been easy, and being on the road for that long, it's challenging. It can be really challenging.
Just a few shouts. Connor Bryn, hello. Brian, sorry, he's going to ask a question. AJ's back in the house. Hey, AJ, how you doing? Right, fantastic. So there's a couple of questions here which are almost like tied together. First of all, Connor's actually say, hi guys, how do you deal with performance anxiety? But then obviously that is also related to someone. So how does the panel deal with pressure associated with being a self-employed musician, for example, mental health, which I suppose that's part of the anxiety of performance as well, isn't it? So, Rob, we'll come to you first on this one. How do you deal with because we're all self-employed musicians, you know, and no one's got a retainer of anyway, I don't think. So it's a kind of thing where, you know, we are living from gig to gig theoretically.
I'm minted, but the other one.
So how do Gabs is in his West Wing in the Gab studio.
Yeah, he's minted.
Look at him! Look. He even took the clock down earlier because it's like that's not a good clock.
Time stopped in North Harrow. I'm done.
But how do you deal with it? Because it's quite especially for this, I suppose, and this is situation right at the moment, especially as like
Yeah.
mental health is quite a big thing. But how do you deal with the bits of the anxiety and sort of the being self-employed and all that kind of stuff?
Um, well, the stage anxiety is the thing, I suppose. Like you said, we've sort of moved on to a different element of it. But for the stage anxiety, um, I've certainly not alcohol or anything. Um, just that gets better with experience, I think, and the more you do it, and more confidence you get, and stuff like that. And mental health, I mean, that runs through all of this. That runs through everything that we do. From the minute you pick the sticks up, you're already thinking your mate's better than you, and we're on this sort of this silly sort of ego trip that humankind set themselves up for, which in one way makes us work harder, but the other way works against us. It makes us think we're never good enough, and we get this constant to and froing. And I think it's trying to find that balance, and everyone's got a different balance. Some people's balance, can be this way, and some people's is that, and some people's is just. I'd like to think I'm somewhere level between those sort of two or three different elements. But what I do is when I'm working, I make sure that I keep some money behind. Lock some money away safe. So I've got that happening. When I'm on a project and I'm in my hotel room or I'm at home, I start looking and communicating all the time with other people. It's not like I'm on one gig trying to jump on the other. We all know people like that. If we're always trying to shuffle around a gig and step on your toes. I've had a few of those actually in the dressing room. A few times, and they've become friends actually, thankfully. But you're like, what? This is my gig, and so I'm always trying to keep the networking flowing. But there are times things just stop, and you get off that tour bus and you come back to the house and you sit there thinking, I could have just done, roll out the hall last night, but the postman doesn't care, the milkman doesn't care, nobody cares. That's my ego again. Like, people should be respecting me, but what do? I sit there and I look at my diary and I think, right, what have I got coming up? If I haven't got enough coming up, start making those phone calls, start looking again, and start working on my playing. But there are some days, yes, I'm not going to lie to you, where it is extremely hard, and you just look at this fictional Facebook world or Instagram of people doing seemingly brilliant things, and it can make you extremely depressed sometimes.
Living their best life.
I'm not exactly, and I'm not going to lie. Then sometimes you meet these people and they're like, oh yeah, but that was the toughest thing I ever did. And do you know how much that cost me? Or do you know what I was going through at the time? And it's all a fallacy, so my network is always working. I'm always keeping friendly with everybody, keeping that route open, trying to keep some money behind, keeping my playing up. And do you know what I've started doing in lockdown? I started making lists. I've started actually physically. I've got two books, a yellow and a blue, and I start making lists and cross them off every day of things that I want to do, things that I want to achieve. And for me, it's actually been really positive. I usually do it on notes on my laptop, I'm like, but these days I'm not interested. I want to write them down and go through.
Pen and paper every time.
Absolutely. I want to contact so-and-so. Do I want to post something? Yes, I do. Do I want to practice this? Do I want to go into the shed and find my Speed King or my Ludwig 402, which I still need to do? It's up there. Or do I want a bath today? So I think all those things are important, but everyone deals with it differently. Be okay with how you deal with it. And, if you need to talk to somebody, I talk to people all the time. I'm on Zoom. My wife gets fed up. I'm on Zoom 3 or 4 times a week. Talk to musicians. Are you okay? Yeah, but are you okay? Not really. I'm having a bad day. Tell me about it. It really helps. Really helps.
Yeah, just on the performance anxiety thing, I'll come to you in a second about the whole thing. It's that I tell my students, like, because we've all done, like, the big arenas and you can't actually see anybody, so they do small ones, and they can't understand why the smaller gigs are more nerve-wracking than the bigger arenas. And it's because you can eyeball everyone in that particular little area you're in, and they can see every single thing you're doing.
The whites of their eyes.
But it's the whole kind of when you got sort of 6,000-8,000 people there, you don't know who they are. 9 times out of 10 you can't see it because the lights are too bright anyway. So you actually you just relax and you just play and have fun. That's basically what I've said. So it all depends. The experience helps, but the situation as well. I still get nervous if there's 30 or 40 people on a jazz gig kind of thing. because it's like because they're there because they know their stuff as well. So you're like, oh, kind of thing. It's that internal kind of like, have I done it well? It's like then when you get someone to go, "Go, you kicked that man up the arse," then it's like, well, thank you very much. It's like, I'll go home happy. I've made one person happy. Job done. But Pete, on that subject, please.
Well, yeah, performance anxiety.
Yeah, well, yeah, and also how you coping as self-employed musician, I suppose, as well. This because I think the two do link together.
I don't really know anything else, to be honest. And having been a working drummer since 1977, I've seen good times and bad times, and I think you just become over such a over a whole lifetime. It's 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties, 10s. I'm in my 6th decade of gigging now, which is quite
and you can't
alarming.
Look at it. It looks fantastic. Look at it.
But as far as performance anxiety goes, let me just harken back to what I said a moment ago. I've been doing gigs through all of those decades, and I don't know how many times I've been on stage. Goodness knows. But in that time, I've probably played what I thought was absolutely to the very best of my ability, somewhere between 10 and 15 times over those 40 odd years. Probably that's about give or take about a dozen times. I've really done the job absolutely as well as I possibly think it could have been done. And you know what? I remember every one of those gigs, from the very earliest occasion to the most recent times. And I remember what it felt like to do the job that well, to feel that everything is flowing, everything is happening. I'm completely doing this absolutely as well as it was possible for me to do. I remember what that felt like, and I get myself into the space of how that felt. Those, on those say dozen or so times when everything just fell into place. I try to find that space before every gig that I do. It's just a little bit of mental programming, stepping into how it felt when you were absolutely, totally on fire, and I couldn't have done it any better. It doesn't always work, but it's a great mindset with which to start a gig, just shutting everything else out and concentrating on what it feels like when you're absolutely doing your best work.
Have you read that Effortless Mastery book by Kenny Werner, P?
Yeah, I wasn't too impressed with it, to be honest.
Bits of it I liked, a lot of it I didn't. But that little bit that you're talking about, he talked about it in one of the chapters about when he was getting to some really good stuff in a practice session, he would stop and make himself go outside for like 10 minutes and then come back in and try and get straight back on that line again.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like psychology and things like NLP, it's a pretty standard strategy that people use a lot. And I've just kind of heard a little bit about it over the years and just tried, like everything else, I've kind of borrowed something from somewhere else and kind of reshaped it, reimagined it, and just tried to adapt it to make it suit my purposes.
Absolutely.
Exactly what we do with playing.
Yeah.
All the time. It's exactly what we do with music.
Gabs, just basically kind of on, Connor's actually has asked us, like, is there a kind of hidden set of rules when networking? He says, I swear that you end up offending someone or say the wrong thing, and that has, it's like you've fallen out with someone, so eventually you just don't say anything or give your opinion. Well, it's hard, obviously, because obviously, everyone's trying to fight for them, but how have you? Because obviously this obviously links into part of the being self-employed and the mental health thing as well, doesn't it? Because obviously there's knockdowns, there's all that kind of stuff. So how do you? It's like, what's your code to networking? And it's like, is there a secret code? I personally don't think there is one.
Oh my God, it is such a complex question. And plus, I wanted to reflect on what Rob said, and I wanted to reflect on what Pete said. It's an amazing conversation. I'm really enjoying this. It's fantastic. It's fascinating. So, first of all, I don't think there's a real set of rules for networking, because someone just going to like you or not.
Exactly.
All you can be is the nicest you can be. But there's one thing I learned from bad experiences, actually from my teachers, who, in my opinion, in retrospective, they were overly critical, and they only had one vision, that this is the only way, or he's the only good player and everything else was wrong. And I sort of grew up that way, and I made comments that I now, 20, 30 years later, I know offended people, and I wish I didn't say it, and I shouldn't have said that, but I was in that spirit. I was under the influence of certain teachers who are great, and they were great players, and I learned a lot from them. But at the same time, I feel like I learned from their mistakes as well. And I've learned not to be that critical, and I've learned to search for the good thing in everybody. And I've learned to search for the positives in everybody's playing and everybody's personality, and I hope that I'm going to find the good thing. And even if I don't like someone's playing, that's not something I want to remember, because you are going to remember anyway. Why focus on the negatives when you can definitely find something positive?
Yeah.
I don't want to poison my soul in searching for someone's failures or searching for someone's weaknesses. What I want to find is, what is it that I like?
We all know people who do that, but that's just them kind of unloading their own hang-ups and problems on other people.
Yeah.
And I think positivity is a really good thing. And
yeah.
I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier on in the discussion. Yeah, be positive, but just be real. I mean, I can think of one or two people I've met over the years, and they would just do anything to be your friend. And hi man, how you hey, it's great to see. And you think, hang on, nobody's that nice. This is a front. This is an act. And sooner or later, without fail, eventually you'll see through the cracks, and then this whole artifice comes tumbling down. And you think, well, actually, I didn't know you at all. So just, be nice, but be real, but most importantly, be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else.
Yeah, you don't have to try too hard. There's definitely, because
exactly.
You don't have to try too hard. Those people that you want to look nice to, they've been there in the business for 20, 30 years. They met all the wankers, so they're gonna know that, oh, this guy's good.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
You don't want to come across like
sit on the fence. It is. Go on, off you go.
Excuse my terminology. Excuse my French.
No, it's Hungarian. It's fine.
It's after 9 o'clock. You can have a wanker.
Woo!
That's fine.
All the babies are in bed. So
basically,
you just want to be yourself, and you try the best you can. You just want to be natural. You want to be positive. I definitely always want to be positive. And some people always gonna hate me for who you are, how you play, whether you're better than them, whether you're shittier than them, whether you're younger than them, whether you're older than, whatever, the position may be. You never know who you're talking to. And
you know the people who sit on the sidelines and snipe and they say, oh, why has he got that gig? Why has he got that endorsement? Why is he in that drum magazine?
Exactly.
Look in the mirror. Look at yourself. That's where you'll find your answers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And guys, it's a very interesting one. But got some more questions here to go on. It's it will come back. It always does come back. These kind of questions. Martin Ollie has basically said this is quite a sort of, I suppose this one obviously can go on forever and ever. And I've got personal experience about this one. Anyone suffering carpal tunnel syndrome, and if there's any tips for how to overcome this during a set?
Not at all. I can't help. Not at all. And I tell you what, why not? Is because when I make a stroke, when this bit of hickory or this one makes contact with the playing surface, I'm completely relaxed.
Yeah.
There's no pressure at all. I'm not, throwing the fingers away and letting the stick wander around it, but when I get down to that drum or cymbal, there's no pressure whatsoever. Yeah. That's why, touch wood, I've never had any carpal tunnel, any tendonitis, anything like that. I've hurt myself occasionally by bashing into cymbals or hardware or stuff like that. But I've never had any of that kind of RSI type of issue in 55 years of playing. It's never been a problem, and it's something I've got better at as I've got older. When I was younger, I used to do what I see a lot of guys doing. It makes me shudder even to show this. They'll lock down at the bottom of the stroke and they'll tense up. Don't just let the stick breathe.
Looking at it makes my hand hurt. Just looking at you doing that. Just...
I know. It's the fingers down the blackboard thing, isn't it? It's horrible.
Nasty.
Yeah. As I say, I've had when I was at college. I went to music college at 16, and my second instrument at the time was piano. So I was doing a lot of piano. So basically doing a lot of exercises like this. And very classical teachers, basically this way and everything else. And I actually, unfortunately, I did develop, which I've got it for life. It's completely under control now. But it was, I had to basically look at basically what I was doing, and it wasn't really until I got with a teacher called Malcolm Garrett, amazing drummer. He's one of the, in my opinion, one of the most, like, especially UK, maybe it's like a world's authority on the motor technique, but. Motor technique's amazing. That's the way I, one of the major ways I play. But what it taught me is like the way to look. It's like it's the relaxation. For me, the stick is all about the bounce. If you haven't got the bounce, and you're basically trying to, you've got tendons there, muscle connected. If you know about the human anatomy, and I know quite a lot about it now, especially like in this kind of area. Don't ask me. I haven't got a clue what's going on there. But it's the whole kind of sort of reaction, and it's like and the opposites and all kind of stuff that works. If that stick is bouncing, if you're physically having to do everything, there's pressure going in all the joints because there's nothing going on. If it's that kind of relaxation, the sticks are bouncing, you can flow throughout, and as I say, Pete said it earlier, but as I say, it's a different kind of flow, but it's the kind of it's the mechanical flow, I suppose. If that's there, if you're not tense, if you're not everything else, then it doesn't matter if you play for 5 minutes or 5 hours. Theoretically, it should be no difference because you're letting the sticks do the work, and that's what I've discovered. And since obviously being had lessons with Malcolm, because I'm going back to like 20 odd years now, and I go back every so often just to sit and have a chat for a couple of hours and swap ideas, and so he shows me more stuff, which is amazing. But since then, I don't really have a problem. When I've had to do lots of been on tours, do lots of hand percussion, all this Latin stuff and everything else, because it does really push. It takes me about, if I was doing a Latin when I had to play lots of congas and bongos and stuff like that, it literally would take me about 3 or 4 gigs for my hands to numb up.
It's a different technique, isn't it? It's a different touch.
Yeah, and so when I really feel it then. So I'd always have my pad, have my sticks, and literally 5 minutes of basically just going back and so all that kind of stuff. It's all about that. And one thing I will leave you with this. It's the kind of thing where we need our blood to supply oxygen to everywhere, and it's a great healer blood. If you're stifling that flow around your body, everything else, you're going to suffer because you haven't got that oxygen, you haven't got that nice nutrients of the blood flowing everywhere. If it's relaxed, if you do this, what's happening? You're chucking blood into those areas. If you're doing this, it's like white knuckle syndrome, you're pushing it out. So you want to be pumping blood into those areas that you use. And you're only going to get through relaxation. So I'd say it's one we could talk for about 5 years on it. But I hope that helps. So it's a short thing. So there we are. Another great question here. Apart from not to wrinkle Pete. What's the secret? Well, I know his secret, but it's not going to, I'm not allowed to do it on air. It says, do you think it's feasible in today's music industry to be a top musician alongside another career? Endorsements, playing gigs, tours. Obviously, Ian Palmer's a good example of that. Obviously, being the pilot. Do we think it's? Oh, hi, Natasha. Do we think it's feasible in today's music society to actually have two, have a playing career and another career?
I've never done it. It takes all my time to work on this career. I think if I was to deviate, I don't know what would happen. So for me, I just couldn't imagine it, to be honest.
He's got to be a Superman. I mean, Ian's got to be a Superman to being a pilot. I mean, to be honest, it takes so much, isn't it? I mean, what a discipline and what a organized person you got to be to nail that and be a shit. Jeez. It's like, wow. I don't know how he does it. I mean, wow.
I think everybody's different. I mean, for myself, earlier on, when I was starting out, when I was a teenager, I just felt like anything else would be a distraction and would get in the way. And in later life, I've thought that maybe I could have added other elements to my professional portfolio as to what I do, but not at a point or time where I ever felt either like I wanted to or needed to be honest.
I think I had a chat, got a good trumpet friend of mine who basically freelances as a natural trumpet player. He does a lot of amateur orchestras as well, but he does a lot of professional trumpet playing. But we was having a conversation because we had a couple of gigs, one down in Poole, then was in Hereford, so day after, next days. And we had a kind of conversation where it's like, is he a professional musician? And then it was like, we came to the realization that I have got two careers. Well, I've got three if you think, well, four if you think about it. I've got my performance career, but that's all of it. I'm also a teacher. I don't class myself as a teacher. I'm also class myself as a coach. I'm coaching these guys to teach themselves, to do stuff, give them the tools to do it. But that's a separate career to your playing career. So could we class that as another career? And the reason why we're saying that is because he works in IT. It's like a Monday to Friday, but his whole kind of situation, his work with his boss, he's allowed to take time off as long as he gets his work done. He's allowed to take time off throughout the week to actually go and do other gigs. It's like his freelancing career. So I suppose in my eyes, you can do it because we all do teaching. Would you not class that? Because we do know people who are literally just teachers. We know people who are just performers, but they are two separate things, and you have to have two different mentalities to it. So wouldn't you class those as two different careers?
I think the main difference is that you teach what you perform, so they still belong together. So it's not like you're teaching how to fly an airplane and the next day you do a test, you get Ronnie Scott. So you teach what you perform. So yes, they are two different things, because when you teach, you got to have a totally different approach, but you're still teaching the same thing, so to speak. So, and if you're lucky, I find myself very lucky that I enjoy the teaching and I enjoy seeing people improve and progress in their field. So you pretty much teach the same thing that you do, or something that you learned over the decades. So yes, it's different, and also it takes a different mentality some way, and also takes a different, of course, different time schedule. You got to get up in the morning, not like a player. When I was just playing, I woke up at 11, 12 o'clock. I can only dream about it, and I get up at 6:30 with my 3-year-old, that's my life's changed. And if I start teaching at 9 o'clock in central London, I got to be up at 7. So, and yes, it's two jobs, and also the admin, the paperwork, university work, blah, blah, blah. So it is, several different jobs, but they somehow related, so they belong together. So it's not like, I wouldn't describe it like two different jobs, like 1.5. 1.5.
But as I say, it's an interesting one, isn't it? It's like people. I've known people in profession who haven't done teaching. It's like one, I know a lot of people who've done driving instructing, but it's basically like supplement obviously the rest of their career because obviously they can tie it in with their career and stuff like that. So it's like I've got this thing. Used to know guitarists in the 70s worked 6 nights a week at the Mecca circuit and also did a 9-to-5 job. Well, I think we all know those boys.
Yeah, my dad was like that for my entire childhood. He had a day job and was gigging most nights of the week.
Yeah, what's to say, our elder statement of Gary Alcock, he actually held a job down at Longbridge.
That's right,
many of them did, and he was 6 nights a week in the casinos and the dance halls, and then gigging most probably in Pebble Mill sessions on the Sunday and stuff like that as well. So, but that was the norm back then, wasn't it? That was the norm back then. That's what they had to do.
I tend not to care for labeling or categorizing stuff too much. I make my living from the drums, and that could be playing. It could be playing with a big band. It could be playing with a pop band. It could be playing with a jazz trio, or it could be teaching, or it could be doing clinics or masterclasses or whatever. And I just feel fortunate that the instrument has been good enough to me over all these years to enable me to have the luxury and the incredible privilege to spend my working life doing something I really, really like. I mean, when I've got a few pounds to spare, and it ain't very often, particularly not at the moment, I like to dabble a little bit in the stock market. But I wouldn't call myself I wouldn't call myself a trader by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a little thing I do a little of on the side. And I might go online and do a bit of dealing maybe once every 1 or 2 months, and it's a bear market at the moment, so it's just like lock everything down and sit still and hold your nerve and don't sell at the moment. It's for any people who are interested in any of that. But I'm not a trader. I'm not a stockbroker. It's just a little hobby that I dabble in every once in a while. And if that's where music is in your life, then that's great too. But as long as you enjoy it and feel inspired to go out and do it, I mean, I think we are the lucky guys that we are so blessed that we have managed to eke out lasting professional careers doing this thing. It's a huge privilege.
Rob, I'm going to come to you because it was actually Connor actually said this. He's going to your opinion on this, please. Okay, be more specific. 9-to-5 job, which is flexible with holidays and time off, etc., alongside just being in one successful band. Would you get the same respect from quotations a proper musician?
Is that aimed at me?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Again, this comes down to the sort of person, who's going to receive that information or you talk to. I mean, a nice guy, they can be like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, great, good for you. For the people that are like, the schneidy people, they can be like, oh, that's not proper. You're not a real musician, And I don't think that's true at all, because you're doing that at the moment. But who's to say when this project takes off that you don't need that job and you can suddenly become the musician? It's not a bad thing. I mean, back in the day, if we're going back in the day, when I was 18 or 19, I used to collect trolleys for Marks and Spencer's in a green uniform. And I'd be out there with my Sony Walkman on, collecting the trolleys, listening to, Weckl or Buddy Rich or whoever, Prince or whatever I was listening to at the time. And I used to think one day, this job's helping me to finance what I want to do, to move on to something else, And I used to play with a lot of the Bristol jazzers, and there can be a lot of pretension around the Bristol jazz scene. And I used to go in there and they'd be like, you work? And I'd be like, Yeah, I work at M&S. I'm a wear Iceman. It's great. I wear a green outfit all day. Brilliant. A little hat. But you know what? I work there and I'm thinking about music all day. I'm forming interesting relationships there as well. You know, seeing how that sort of situation works, and then get to a band and realize it's no different at all. You know, the way those relationships work with hierarchy and stuff. You know, I don't think it's an issue, but you are always going to meet those people who look down their nose at you and say, you know, oh, you. And I also used to get this with teaching as well. Some peers would sort of go, oh, you can't be a real musician if you teach. You know, you can't call yourself a real playing musician. And I was always like, that's bollocks. You know, that's complete rubbish. So you're always going to meet those people, Connor. You know, and I know some of these people still, but I don't have much to do with them. But I think it's, you know, it's extremely possible to do both and hold your head up high, because both of those things are good. Some people can't even do one of those things well, you know, and if you can do both, you know, then you're a good human being. Boom, you know.
You know, the kind of advice that I think a lot of people, especially who have been in the music industry for many, many years, has always been, it's like, be diverse. You know, because obviously if you just put, so if you're being diverse, obviously to pay the bills, just like, you know, it's like make actually a physical living that can actually enjoy life, and to make sure you can actually then maybe go on to do what you want to do in the end. I've got no qualms of like people working, you know, just to basically to live, and then do what they want to do, and then see what happens after that. I've got no problem with it, and I don't think we all have, because the thing is, at the end of the day, we all have to live, and you know, it's, you know, as Gab said, you know, it's some of the best, you know, sort of players are in the UK, stuff like that. So everyone's fighting for the jobs. And I think Rob mentioned last week about sort of moving to London. He was talking to Ralph Salmons. He said, "Well, why do you move to London? Because you're going to be behind me anyway." Do you know what I mean? Well, it's that. So
well, maybe, but you might have gone into London in a completely different trajectory that would have in no way crossed over with what Ralph was doing. But that's another debate for another day, I believe.
It is. You do believe that, yeah.
I think what's important to bear in mind is you know, this is the 21st century, and the industry is where it's at. There are so many highly skilled, very, very able players around today, in a way that wasn't the case in the 1970s and 1980s when I was first going out there, where you could, even if you weren't a fully formed player, you could be okay at some things, but maybe not a particularly good reader, but you'd still work. Like you could be like a 7, 8 out of 10 player and not really have everything together, but you could still work. But that wouldn't happen now, because there's, you know, we are living in such an age of enlightenment where drums are concerned, that so many players have so much knowledge at a level that just simply wasn't the case when I started. So that means there are far more good players to fill the jobs. So that means that, you know, if there's a quota out there, if there's a finite amount of work and an endless stream of good and capable players to do it, then it means that maybe sometimes we do have to look at other ways of supplementing our income from music, and it's fine. Well, there's nothing wrong with it. I remember Craig Blundell when he had a day job. Look where he is now.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. You know? Totally. And the other thing, the best example for this one, I mean, that's one that I always bring up with my students. That I read an interview with Dave Wackel. He's obviously is being one of the top names for decades in the drum business, and when his first solo album came out, titled Master Plan, which was a groundbreaking record for me, because that was the first time I was introduced to jazz and jazz fusion particularly. Later on I started, my journey is very interesting, but later on I sort of discovered Jack DeJohnette and Tony Williams. I know it's crazy because they were much before him in the time, but I sort of discovered fusion first, Wackel, Billy Cobham, blah, blah, blah. And then I went back to the acoustic jazz, which happened like decades earlier than that. Doesn't matter. That's just my personal story. And he had this interview, my point is, in Modern Drummer. And he was talking about his first solo record, Master Plan. And he said he took out 6 months on a creative period. He took out 6 months from playing, touring, sessioning, presenting master classes, clinics, everything and anything, because he was in a creative period with Jay Oliver, was the keyboard player in his band at the time, and he didn't have to do anything for 6 months because he had such an initial payment before his first solo record, because he was a drummer in the Chicory Electric Band. So they knew that his album was going to sell. Now, when are you going to sell so many albums that an artist, a drummer, can take out 6 months from working?
Yeah, right.
Now, look at Dave Weckl in 2020. He soundproofed his garage like I did, and he's offering online sessions. And you and I, if I want Dave Weckl to play drums on my album, I can pay him to play for me. If you're a guitarist, vocalist, keyboard player, whoever you are, if you can afford, you pay him, you transfer him the dollar, and Dave Weckl's gonna play drums on your album. This is how much times changed in the music industry over the last 20, 30 years. So the best thing you can do is adapt. Otherwise, you're fighting something you can't win. You know, you can never win this fight. So all you can do is be flexible. And the other thing that this current pandemic taught me big time was that you need to have several posts. Because even if I had, for example, right now, like I used to have, or it can happen anytime soon, West End chair, when you're making serious money every week, if that's the only gig you do, and the pandemic, like unprecedented, I never experienced anything like this in the last 42 years since I'm on this planet. If
Oh, he's gone again.
Oh no.
Gabs, you're gone. It was the word pandemic. I think it just went off with that, isn't it? Guys, I've just noticed the time. It's been absolutely amazing.
can you hear me now?
Oh yeah.
Carry on.
I just my mic, I don't know what's happening with this computer. So if you only have one thing to rely on, it's very easy to lose it. It can go like this. If you have just one gig. So what Rob said, there was a lot of things I wanted to reflect on. What Rob said, always keep in contact, stay in touch with the people, write to them, contact them, stay in contact. Don't be arsy, don't be, big-headed, anything like that. Just stay in contact and try to keep several things going at the same time. It's not that you try to step on anybody's toes. It's not that you try to jump the ship, nothing like that. It's just staying in contact so you have more than one income. And there's nothing wrong if you have to do for a short period of time, whatever, it's fine. We all have different jobs. I have my own drum school, I have my university teaching, I have my private studio, I have my clinics, I have my gigs, I have my jazz band, I have several things. So there's always like it's like a multiple plan.
But he obviously hasn't got a decent mic, and that's.
And on that note,
yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening out there. Thanks. There's so many questions we haven't got through. Just to read out questions.
Tune in next week and we'll answer them then.
Have you lost me again?
Yeah, we lost you again, but don't worry about it. It's absolutely.
No.
We got the purpose of basically what you're basically saying. It's like don't be proud. Basically, if you need to earn money, you basically need to earn, don't you? So
just work.
Yes, so what? These questions, please give them next week. We've got stuff on about standard of music teaching. It's like what's the best advice you can give everyone? It's like real kits and it's like electric kits and stuff like that. They're actually all fantastic questions, but unfortunately we've run out of time. So my sponsors obviously. I haven't got any, so for this, so they're actually on.
Thanks to my non-existing sponsors.
Where do I send the invoice?
Yeah, exactly.
It's in the post. Yeah.
So, but I'll just leave on this. Martin, Ollie's basically asked the question. I'm just trying to find it while I'm talking from it. It says just quick question before you go, guys. Bass drum or kick drum, drum kit or drum set? Now, please do not answer that, guys, because they have answered it in the PD countdown, which is later on live. I have done one with Gabs, and I'll be out very, very shortly. But I actually haven't given my preferences this. So bass drum or kick drum, it's bass drum. Drum kit or drum kit set, it's drum kit for me. That's my personal thing. So I'd like to say thanks so much again to our resident panels, Mr. Pete Cater and Rob Bryan. Thanks so much for being wealth of knowledge, and it's like just the most nicest guys after basically what we talked about. And our special guest, Gabs, thank you ever so much, coming live from Gabby Road Studios. Even if you have a few mic problems, but it's the beauty of live, isn't it? So we all have to deal with what we have. So thank you ever so much, guys, for watching. Stay tuned for next week, because we've got an absolute corker. Along with our regular panel guests, we have the guy, well, he's, what am I going to say? It's Todd Zuckerman. Todd Zuckerman is on with us with the PD chat show. So tune in next week on the PD chat show live at 8:30 with Pete, Rob, myself, and our special guest that week is Todd Zuckerman. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Take care. All the best.